Welcome to KeepItReal Studios, the only channel on YouTube that keeps it real.
UFC 312 has officially become a thing of the past. Relatively, it wasn't the most exciting pay-per-view we've seen, but it did have some memorable moments. We got to see some fighters' debuts, we got to see immense finishes, and we got to see rivalries come to a conclusion. Overall, UFC 312 was an exciting pay-per-view, and I think it'll be very nice to get down into this breakdown. Starting off the main card, we had a welterweight matchup between Jake Matthews and Francisco Pedro. Matthews put on an absolute masterclass, showcasing his sharp boxing and relentless pressure. He pieced up Pedro with heavy power shots, including nasty uppercuts in the clinch. Pedro did have some success in the slick inside trip and takedowns, but Matthews shocked it off and kept marching forward throughout the fight. A huge head clash did take place that eventually busted up Pedro open, only making things worse for him. Despite eating heavy shots, Pedro refused to go down, but it was all Matthews from start to finish to the end of the fight. The next matchup on the card was a light heavyweight bout between Jimmy Crute and Rodolfo Bellato. Jimmy Crute came out strong, scoring a smooth takedown and threatening with a submission early on. However, Bellato defended well and eventually got back up. As they got back up, Bellato kept landing some clean shots and controlling the exchanges. As the fight went on throughout the second and the third round, both men started to fatigue, cause these two were going at war, both swinging back and forth at each other, eating clean shots, and just overextending. Both men eventually slowed down, but Bellato secured another big takedown, while Crute still showed great versatility in his striking. By the end, neither man could fully take over, leading to a majority draw. A brutal back and forth with no winner. The next matchup on the card was a heavyweight bout. It was between Justin Sasafa versus Taisillon Teixeira, a 6'7" giant making his debut in the UFC, and I have to say, he did an astounding job. Once the match started, he wasted absolute no time in the cage. He attacked Tasafa up against the cage and unleashed a vicious elbow that sent him crashing to the mat, and he just followed up with brutal shots and had to get the stoppage by the referee. In only 35 seconds, he made a name for himself in the UFC and showed that he was a real problem in the heavyweight division. The next matchup on the card was for the Women's Strawweight Championship of the World. We had the reigning defending champion Zhang Weili defending her title up against the undefeated fighter Tatiana Suarez. When the fight started, Suarez had her early moments going on. She took down Zhang Weili and was threatening the guillotine. But Zhang Weili eventually reversed beautifully, got the mount, and can I just say from there on, the tides completely turned. That was the only showcase that Tatiana Suarez had throughout the next 5 rounds. Zhang Weili truly proved that she was one of the greatest women's fighters in the world that night. From there on, Zhang Weili just kept stuffing takedowns, landing brutal right hands and unleashed relentless ground and pound throughout. A huge shot in the third round rocked Suarez badly, and Zhang Weili kept shutting down every single takedown that she had going up against her. Tatiana shot around 15 times on Zhang Weili, and she only got one successful takedown. And even throughout that takedown, Zhang Weili still managed to get a reversal. Zhang Weili truly proved to the world that she's a beast. Going into this fight, everybody really thought that Tatiana Suarez's jiu-jitsu ground game was going to be the downfall of Weili, but Weili persevered on. She outworked Suarez in every single wrestling exchange, proving that she's another level. Yet another dominant defense by Zhang Weili, building her GOAT legacy. And this has got a lot of people questioning if she should move up and go up against Valentina Shevchenko. For the main event of the card, we had Dricus du Plessis going up against Sean Strickland for the middleweight championship of the world. The long-anticipated rematch that nobody was asking for. Previously, at UFC 297, Sean Strickland was the champion, and he was the one defending up against Dricus du Plessis. They had an amazing 5-round war going back and forth, but it did look like Dricus du Plessis did enough to score the victory. Sean Strickland truly believed that Dricus du Plessis didn't win. He truly thought he won the fight and he should have retained this belt. And that actually leads up into this fight at UFC 312, Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. Once the fight started, Plessis wasted no time setting the pace early. He was mixing it up well, throwing a lot of high kicks and just a lot of spinning body kicks to the body. He truly made Sean Strickland, the defensive sound fighter, struggle to find his rhythm and find good timing up against du Plessis. As the fight progressed on, DDP just kept a high amount of volume, giving Sean Strickland no breaks, giving him no spaces in between, And eventually, in the 4th round, Dricus du Plessis was swinging for the fences, landed a nice shot that eventually broke Sean Strickland's nose. This nose break truly forced Sean Strickland to go into survival mode. After the nose break even happened, it did seem that Sean Strickland finally got a second win in the fight and started to fight on. But relatively, it was too late because DDP was still having the momentum from the previous round and just kept going and just being relentless with his pressure. Kept on landing the clean shots and kept on maintaining his pace to secure the dominant 5-0 victory once the fight ended. Throughout this fight, it was clearly obvious that Strickland had no answers. His coaches were begging him, forcing him to do something. But Sean Strickland's a very defensively sound fighter, and once he can't get going, there's not much he can do. DDP truly learned from their last fight and really implemented a game plan. His high kicks were paying dividends, his spinning body kicks, and even the spinning back fist that he landed truly was astounding on Sean Strickland. DDP just showed that he improved so much within the time span, and he just proved that he was a lot better than Sean Strickland to begin with. Relatively, Sean Strickland is still a very tough, gritty fighter. He did persevere on, and he never really got knocked down, even with his nose breaking. Overall, still a very exciting fight, a good way to kind of conclude their rivalry, opens up a lot of fights in the middleweight division and even outside of it. Overall, a very solid matchup, answered a lot of questions that fans had, and opened up a lot more questions for us in the future. In overall conclusion, if I had to give UFC 312 a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7. I think it was a decent card, quite solid. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't the worst card either. I remember a lot of people say this was one of the worst cards they've seen in a long time. I don't think so. I think we've truly had worse, but relatively, it was pretty decent. You know, it did have its moments. I was quite impressed with the two champions, du Plessis and Zhang Weili. I feel like they did an immense job just defending the championship. I'm really impressed with Zhang Weili. I think she did a fantastic job. She proved a lot of doubters wrong. A lot of people going into this fight thought Tatiana Suarez was going to be one to defeat her, and she just dominated her throughout. Even du Plessis dominated Sean Strickland throughout all 5 rounds. It was an impressive showcase, and they just really proved why they were the champions of their division. But in overall, honestly, that'll be it for today's video. Tell me how you feel about UFC 312 down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to keep it real.